Today is Wednesday, March 23, 2022. I'm Pastor Michael, and this is Wilderness Wanderings. Our text is from Luke 22. Then came the day of unleavened bread, on which the Passover lamb had to be sacrificed. Jesus sent Peter and John, saying, "Go and make preparations for us to eat the Passover." "Where do you want us to prepare for it?" they asked. He replied, "As you enter the city, a man carrying a jar of water will meet you. Follow him to the house that he enters, and say to the owner of the house, 'The teacher asks, where is the guest room, where I may eat the Passover with my disciples?' He will show you a large room upstairs, all furnished. Make preparations there." They left and found things just as Jesus had told them, so they prepared the Passover. Verses 7 to 13. In yesterday's passage, Satan makes his move, enticing Judas to betray Jesus. First-time readers of this gospel will recognize that the tension has just been ramped up. One of Jesus' chosen 12 has turned against him. Will the devil's move derail Jesus from his mission? Will he deviate from the plan laid out before him? Is redemption in jeopardy? When writing a novel, an author will usually allow this tension to build and intensify. But Luke is not interested in causing us elevated heart rates. He wants us to know that Jesus is fully in control of the situation. Jesus has already laid plans for the celebration of the Passover and sends Peter and John ahead to prepare the room and meal. The preparations for the meal symbolize what is happening in the larger story. A divine plan was being unfolded, which Satan's counterplot could not disrupt. Everything is going according to plan, God's plan. Jesus directs it all, knowing how each detail will fall into place. The disciples faithfully follow the instructions of their teacher. He in turn leads by example, trusting that the Father will lead him to complete his course. Two things are central: God's sovereignty and Jesus' faithfulness in the face of it. Jesus walks into Jerusalem fully aware of what is about to take place. He goes to meet his death. He goes to bring redemption. On the surface, the Passover meal is being celebrated, but underneath, the Passover lamb is preparing to offer himself after this one last meal with his disciples. This meal will forever be a reminder of our deliverance and Jesus' deep trust in God as he walked towards the cross. He meets his call with a total commitment to walk in God's way. We too face situations where God's sovereignty calls us to walk a path where he leads, though the outcome for us may be unclear. God calls us to seek his face and direction amid the questions. We are called to imitate Jesus by trusting like he does here. Facing betrayal and death, Jesus calmly leads his disciples into the celebration of God's goodness in salvation. Though he will soon go to the cross and experience rejection, he leads his disciples in worship and reminds them of their call to follow in his steps. Jesus rests in the knowledge that God cares for him. There will be moments in which tensions and anxieties are poured out to God through prayer. But at the base, there is a sense of God being in control and Jesus' awareness of what is going on. All of this is reassuring to those who read Luke's account. God's control, even during dire circumstances, is important to recall as we face the painful circumstances of our own lives. There are moments when we face desperate circumstances. We may struggle with God's activity in our lives, where trust is hard to come by. The way in which Jesus faced the ultimate end of his ministry is not unlike coming to grips with the hard curves that often throw trauma into our lives. Biblical scholars enjoy debating the theories about how Jesus' death dealt with our sins. Many of them are profoundly moving, drawing together deep spiritual insight and a commitment to bring God's saving love to the needy world. Many of them have inspired Christian people with a new view of God's grace and mercy. Theories have their place, but they weren't the main thing that Jesus gave his followers. He gave them an act to perform. Specifically, he gave them a meal to share. It is a meal that speaks more volumes than any theory. In its simplicity, it reminds us that salvation is accomplished and God is in control. As you journey on, go with the blessing of God. May the peace of the Lord Christ go with you wherever he may send you. May he guide you through the wilderness, protect you through the storm. May he bring you home rejoicing at the wonders he has shown you. May he bring you home rejoicing once again into our doors.